Fan Ki City is now on its way to Kaishou. Then fly over here. Look at the scene below. He's a little confused. It turned into something like this. Just see below. The soldiers are checking those who enter the city. Tran hung with the tree. He also dressed up as a businessman. He's bleeding to get into the city. After the injection, there was no problem. The soldiers let them in. After entering, they quickly fire the transformation algorithm back to its original form. He sniffed the tree and asked where he was going next. Tran Hung looked at the street in front of him calmly. Let's solve our cause in Liao City first. At the same time, in a dojo in the city, the 4 apricots are here looking for a martial artist. Look at the old room. Dust and spider webs in front of you. Yao Kim too immediately spoke up. This dojo, it feels like it's been empty for years. So you're sure martial artists are entrenched in this place? Live here. The king turned and glanced at the man next to the tiger. After we get to Liao City. Have you ever met a martial artist and his disciples? No, the tiger shook his head. The angry king gritted his teeth and continued. His mother's been played. They are capable. He died before we came to the city. Most unbelievable. It's been 2 years. That we are completely didn't find out about this. The mastermind Kier, it's completely changed our perception. Puppy in the head, also out now. I don't blame him, there's no record. About the crowded restaurant participating in the siege sweep, of good reason. At that time, they were destroyed. But there's one more point of doubt. These 2 years, the devil in Liao City and other areas, is it handled by AI? Right now, Tran Hung and the tree people are still walking outside the street. Go to the city center. The tree looked around inexplicably. These dictionaries, how can I live with a brass monk? They don't feel scared. Tran Hung calmly replied to the cover-up. In the eyes of ordinary people, the appearance of the fellow monks accordingly. Maybe it's like they're all normal people. Wolves in sheep's clothing mingled with the sheep. Of course, the sheep won't be able to detect the wolf. Tree people look at the brass monk selling along the road. Shake your head, you say? At the same time inside the Ghostbusters Academy right now. The mouth doesn't stop talking. Not right, not right. I can see his expression. Then he asked, what's wrong with that? Fast response from the start. My right eye is constantly blinking. After listening to the song, the face dropped. To move the scene towards the temple to the emperor. The 10,000 soldiers now returned to their bodies. He had completely forgotten. Dark history. When being beaten by a human being, Cho lives without death. Clenching hands with great excitement, laughing. The Kier can't beat me to death. They just make us stronger. Ha ha ha. I don't think they pay attention to him. Turn around and tell 10. Lady, stay in the temple. I and the 7 kingdoms went out and killed a man. I'll be right back when I'm done. I won't keep you waiting. 10, you can calmly nod your head. 10,000 soldiers are still standing on one side, immersed in joy. Wait for me to kill White Tiger. It shows that our power is at a new level, hee hee. I can't stand this father anymore. Hurry up and give him one. He woke up from a dream. The happy 10,000 soldiers were suddenly beaten. Turn your head immediately and shout, what are you doing? Why are you hitting me? AI Gen interracial massage hand. Let's say those words to White Tiger later. We should start now. When he finished, he pulled out 2 leaves from his chest. It's just been thrown out the door of space. Immediately appear at the same time. White Tiger has now also gone to Jeju. Look at the battle trail ahead. He was a little surprised. There were 2 giants fighting here. from the level of damage and the surrounding architecture. Then you can see their fight is very short. Is in the war. Something happened out of the blue. More. I can't feel the people living in this city. Is a martial artist with the government of this place. We've gathered the evacuees first, as Sao. While he's looking around in confusion. Suddenly, his eyes widened a little. Look ahead in front of you. There's a space door that's slowly opening up. Opens up very quickly. The two men of the 10,000 Years Army and her Jinglin have stepped out. You haven't noticed the front. I didn't realize the counterattack was standing there. The 10,000 soldiers asked. Tell me why. You are sure White Tiger appeared in Jiju City. If the person who comes is Haiyan Vu, why? The patient should immediately respond, because the frequency of Yang and strictly Hoa have cause and effect. Fate will guide them to meet in Liao City. Except for Liao City and where the battle took place. Are Tai and Shinzu and Qingju. The place White Tiger chose could only be Jiju. Talk about here. He turned his head a little bit suddenly and looked forward. When he saw White Tiger standing there, he smiled. This is really a coincidence. I can see these two people. The face is also tense. You are Sun Yin. Move the scene to the Spooky Academy. Inside the city. Frequency of Yang tone face tension. Ask the police again. Your right eye is constantly flashing. The dorm without hesitation nods. That is right, the cold face continued. This shows that your body is weakening. Think about things that were making the cause. Your body is weak. It may be that the master has done something to you. To Liao City, you will meet soon. It is difficult to understand why the master has caused the result for me. Is Haiyan Vu Sao frequency Yin Yang shake his head? No, if you show up at the bar. We will definitely be able to touch it. At the same time, Tran Hung and the tree man went to the front of the million government. He looked at the court in front of Tran Hung a little sad. This familiar feeling. Watch out, the family of a million young ladies was also unfortunate. Then turn your head and look at the tree. Come on, let's go inside and see. The tree has no idea. You two quickly move forward together. They just took a few steps. Two stone lions jumped down to stop him. Chen Shang had a cold face and looked at them. I'm in a bad mood right now. You know what, move aside. Two stone lions without fear. On the contrary, it screams louder. Very quickly, the door is closing of the million government. Immediately crushed. Two stone lions were also knocked inside. Tran Hung and the tree quickly entered. He looked at the scene in front of him and said, of course, the layout is the same as in Taiyan district. The two stone lions are still not running away. And still stand there growling to stop Tran Hung. It's not far away, in a bush. Something is watching them too. The tree next to Tran Hung. It is very fast to touch. Turn your head and look. And then it just disappears on the spot. He appeared again behind the Kier bush. In front of him now appeared another tree. He looks at the enemy closely. There is so much on you that it's spilling out. What else are you trying to do? They are so confident that they are not afraid of being discovered by others. Finished talking, it quickly condensed something in its face. The tree saw that and trembled with fear. Even though it's not there, but it makes a really loud screaming sound. Don't give it time to do anything else. His body was smashed by Tran Hung's tree man. After dealing with the enemy, the tree turned its head and spoke. What are you doing out loud? He threatened to kill me at the same time. The tree was destroyed. The radio waves on this side can also be detected. Two eyes. He immediately saw that and asked, why don't you take a look at him? He replied, There's a master storming into the millions. They asked me what the apricots were. The wind shook his head. It's not that they are more difficult to understand. So who is it? The people in the east were killed by me. Liao City. There are no more masters there, right? Wait is not a name. Are you so close to me? The two eyes wrinkled and nodded. It's very likely to move the scene back to the millions. Right now, 2 stone lions were beaten by Tran Hung Cho. The tree watched them for a moment. Then he glanced at Tran Hung. Killing is also fast. I said, are you getting stronger? Tran Hung shook his head. I don't know. There's no point. I don't know either. What state am I in right now? Okay, don't talk about this. Keep moving in. The next 2 quickly went inside. Inside the central hall of the academy, the blind boy is sitting in front of the stone table, looking at the glass. Inside the glass, look at it. There are Gao Gao burst into the government. Maybe it'll be in your court in a while. I have sent you to your aid. Hold on until he comes. The blind boy nodded his head. It's like in the Thai government. 1 million people in this city. There is also a lake in the middle. Right in the center, separate the 2 sides. Tran Hung just went up. Immediately below the water. Then some sea monsters attacked. He looked at the tree and asked who was up there. The tree quickly responded. Let me go up and finish. Use extremely fast speed to fly ahead to open the way. Wait until it stops. What are the sea monsters? The body is divided into 8 parts. Tran Hung walked in front of him. He wiped the blood on his face and said, You are so cruel. You and the devil have enemies, the tree man replied casually. Not to the point of enmity, it's just boring. There are those who are not demons. It's delivery. Tran Hung was surprised to hear that. Look at the bodies. Waiting for such a bad delivery. It's considered delivery. The tree nodded. It's not customs, it's Hajiao. It's often found in the Jiang River. Can't communicate. Very strong fertility. He loves to eat human flesh. When I was a man, I often see these damn things. Attacking fishermen on the river. And transports meat in times of natural disasters. We don't know how to reduce their numbers. We're growing more and more. They will take advantage of it at night. To sneak up to the shore and plunder the living. After the emperor conquered the world, the first dragon led the army to deal with them. It took 25 to kill them all. But even now, this place remains. It's unbelievable. When Tran Hung heard it, he woke up. Rao is like that. In the head is aesthetically stunning. This guy was at the same time as the old man. It's unpredictable, right? The tree is now startled to look ahead. In that place, the blind boy was walking in front of them. See the enemy. The tree was a little surprised. It's a dead end. At the same time, the horse was running to the outside of the academy, looking at the bodies of 2 lions on the ground. He made a judgment. There are no remnants of magic who stormed the temple. The forte is the right and the SAO. Haha, that's easy to deal with. The inside of the pupil. I now put the flute in my mouth. Start blowing. Around it quickly appeared a crowd of stone people. Tran Hung didn't pay much attention. Keep talking to the tree. This is something you know too. The tree replied. This is what we describe as the creation of demonic magic. When the above, a child with 8. It's the exact opposite of me. Gouging out Tim's eyes and casting a spell. If the air is good, repeat 1025 enemy. Can nourish Ra to be an undead pupil. This demon is not strong, but gives birth to the magic itself. It's the kind that fascinates people. even if you are a martial artist. If you are not careful, you'll be hit. Chen Hong heard that and nodded to understand. I am not ashamed of the Southern Mountain School. Died in his hands. So that's what it is. The tree continued. Many camps knew that this kind of magic was soon. Your Majesty cut off the lineage when this dynasty was founded. Why does anyone still know this? Tran Hung calmly replied, it's very likely that the master arranged this court. It's actually a monster that's lived for hundreds of years. The tree nodded. I guess so. Go to the opposite side after calling out Ra the Stone Man. Blind pupils. Immediately order them to come forward. Kill the enemy. The people kicked without hesitation. Immediately burst into flames. Tran Hung quickly implemented out of school. The most divine transmission, Qigong, body strengthening. Then tell the tree. Don't do it. And then it's turned into a bloodstream. Next up behind him, there are two hands of the general. The tree saw that and sighed. To deal with this monstrous, pure organic paint, he used the feet of the general. It's a waste. The stone people are rushing to not bear a blow. He was immediately executed in the hands of the prime minister. If the eyes see that, they are silent. And then once again bring the flute to the mouth to blow, according to its flute. The stone people gathered again and stood up. The tree on one side saw that, and then, an hour, then disappeared in place. When he appeared again, he stood in front of the dead. The tree suddenly appeared. It makes my eyes almost afraid to pee. The flute movement was also stopped. The tree looked at it. Beating from behind. Then you have to go through my door first. When he finished, he fired a shot to finish off the enemy. There's no flute on this side of the pupils. The rest of the rocks, quickly cleaned by Tran Hung. After dealing with them, he reclaimed his magic. The tree quickly came to his side. Your head says, we mess up in people's places like that. If the owner knows, we'll come to stop us on our own. Chen Shang replied, maybe not. Based on previous experience, it's probably just a son-in-law. The tree is a little excited. That's the name of the juniper. Haha, if this time he comes to clean up the mess. I see your face. His face is going to be interesting. Here we are. Wait for him here. Tran Hung shook his head. No, we still have something to confirm. Wait until it's done and see him later. When the tree heard that, it nodded. Also okay. Then the two quickly went to the back. After a while, he went to the hospital. This place has now fallen into an eerie silence. I watched the dead body die on the ground. The room was a little surprised. Not even the stupid pupils can stop them. In the back of the room where the million lady lived, the two Tran Hung went in. I saw her body hanging there. The man looked at the body and asked Tran Hung, the cause of your city is she. Tran Hung nodded yes. I am accepting her commission. When I went to Taiyan district to investigate the Hung Trach, just killed. The tree looked at the lady with a little compassion. She's unlucky too. Let's stop the whole family. Fled to relatives' homes in Liao City. And the whole house was destroyed. Not that you have a relationship with her. Maybe no one survived. Suddenly from the body, may millions of lady constantly have centipedes raw. It's hard to understand that the tree is a centipede. Tran Hung nodded his head. After a while I remembered. It's that guy's centipede. Be careful, he's probably nearby. He just finished. 3 of them shot straight at him. In front of him, their bodies were red. Then there was a powerful explosion. The barn outside is amazing. It shouldn't be. The martial artist had contact with her. They were all killed by me. Why is someone still looking for her? While he was contemplating, in the house, there is an old sword. Go straight to him. The prison can't escape. He was stabbed by the injured man and pinned to the wall. Look at what's locking you up. I can't believe it. Here are 3 injections of the magic bullet. The army did not stop there. The more unbelievable thing is, the man who just struck him was Tran Hung. He's coming out of the house right now. His eyes are cold. Look at the enemy. Let's meet again, cried the terrified puppy. There's no way you're still alive. At that time I was clearly. Tran Hung calmly replied, it's very confusing, isn't it, people who have chilled their organs like me? I still appear in front of you. She looked at the knife on her chest. My body aesthetic. By the feet of his generals. It's very difficult to separate and reproduce. We have to think differently. Chen Hung saw his expression and laughed coldly. Want to secretly play SAO. After that, the general used his power behind his back. 1 electronic lightning rod on 3 bidirectional injections. Receive the launcher raw. It makes the sobs cry out in great pain. Chen Hung saw this situation in his heart to confirm. Of course, the minister's feet can heal his body. The war before him deliberately used words to guide me. After a moment, the body disappeared. There's only a bunch of centipedes left. To be beaten for the black flame is constantly falling. At the same time on the side of the Ghostbusters. The frequency can also be sensed. Bach's body has been destroyed. On the other side of the tree came out of the house. It's solved SAO. Tran Hung shook his head. Not yet. You can only see it as his body. Its body comes, and then hit again on the side of the evil hospital. The sound of Bak Kui's curse was relentless. That bastard, he dared. That's how dare he. The radio quickly spoke up. I advise you to calm down. Your logo is too big. We have no measure. To use the magic of heaven and earth, arrange the battlefield to temporarily cover it up. Once you wake up, the cold and the north of the land will detect anomalies in the millions. The prisoner was now so angry that he lost his reason. I don't care if he destroys my body. I want him to die. A moment later, the poppies were in the dojo. I felt the ground shaking violently. Yao Kim too was afraid to utter. What's going on? Tran Hung and the tree looked up at the sky and said, Ra. The Japanese constitution has been abolished. Inside the underground house, something wants to get out. Very quickly, the land was smashed. A giant chimpanzee from the inside immediately appeared in front of Tran Hung. This is the SAO version of Sun Mbak Kui. It's been holy for 2,000 years. He looked at Shen Xing angrily. Martial artist. I want to eat you at the same time. They are persistent and counterproductive. They're still staring at each other. The 10,000 soldiers looked at the enemy with contempt and laughed. No, this generation of white tigers is so small. This isn't a new kid going crazy. I was quick to sound a reminder. Don't underestimate him. White Tiger boss punished. The traitor inherited the name White Tiger. They're the ultimate fake. Completed the ambush in a disastrous battle. 1 against 1 on the opposite side. I stared at the two of them thinking. These are the negative painters who pushed the assault to the extreme. One hand creates a separate world that my grandfather mentioned. Why is such a strong enemy a duel? I'm afraid I have to use that. 10,000 soldiers quickly took out the great Diu said. I'll fight him. Don't get your hands on him. I can't help but nod my head. Then you hurry up. He just finished talking. 10,000 soldiers immediately rushed forward. Fan Kai found that a little surprising. Not with Sao. 10,000 times the eyes of the evil god laughed loudly. Eat one of my axes first. Complaining is not welcome, but quickly jump up high dodge. The 10,000 soldiers saw that and laughed with horror. Run something, go back and fight. The enemy is not looking at the enemy. Rapid thinking spinning. Awesome power, but the behavior is very rude. He's in disguise. Or that kind of capital nature. Try the pro blade first. He immediately clasped his hands. There were countless swords coming up from the ground. Then he headed straight for the 10,000 army. The soldiers laughed coldly when they saw that. Hey kid, watch me break it. He finished with one hand on the ground. God, as people can build courage for me. Very quickly, a land-based giant appeared. Raise him up to the weapons of the counter-flag call Ra. If you touch the ground, you are stopped. See the enemy perform this trick. The wind is also amazing. It's a fairy godmother who can dig dung seriously. The old man mentioned it. Why bother? There's that thing here. My glass sword and all my weapons. Everything will be stopped. If you want to win, you have to fight in close combat. But if you fight in close quarters, we'll have no way to separate the stars. Forced to pay attention to the monk Kier. 10,000 soldiers standing on the head of the earth. Now it's a loud provocation. Whatever else you do, use it all. Count, and I heard that. I was so angry that I gritted my teeth. At the same time, Bakui Escapi is constantly emerging from the ground of the city. The apricots came out of the dojo. It's extremely scary. The Pope led the way. It's not. Such a large chimpanzee appeared in Liao City. The king of this place. A little reminder, it's not Sao. I have a little doubt. This thing 2 years ago, do they all live under our feet? Poppy quickly replied. This place is similar to a restaurant. Before the rebellion of the Lich Hu, it's already been dealt with by the mastermind. Next, he glanced at 2 people, Lamb Tiger and Yao Kim too. Assign you to evacuate the city. Let's go to the Pope. Follow that centipede. Let's see who calls it. Inside the million government, Tran Hung look at the stars in front. Tell the tree. Separate the tree, nod. Already know it. When I finished, the setting immediately bit down. The 2 are also quick. Everybody on one side, sideways. A pack of 7 frostbite polyps once again apparated to the ground. Tran Hung's sharp eyes glanced behind. Think behind the back. Just as he predicted. Once again, the wind is behind him. Tran Hung is also not a little sloppy. Immediately implement Ra Bar Pure Magic Way, foot of the general. The dog couldn't bite down. He was beaten up by the Prime Minister. The cold body looks perfect. Not a little hurt. Tran Hung was surprised. A little injury, also no Sao. Its shell is also hard. The tree people not far away are also amazing. Hard to be able to fend off foot generals. See, it's not useless. On the other side, look at the body of the giant's son-in-law, are stirring in the city of Kier. Radio frequency. I was angry at this stupid guy. They cause more trouble for me. This is his copy once he's out. It's not that there's no chance. Let the way people push. I found a man hiding in Sao. No, we have to think differently. At the same time, another side, Sage is with the sword. Fly to 8 continents. Suddenly, he looked at the south. The direction of Ti Nam is getting more and more accurate. The direction it's pointing at is the direction of Shou Sao. He quickly raised his head to call the wind station. We're going to change direction immediately to Liao City. Below is a map, distribution of factions and their routes of movement. After a while, the two-way Soviets went to the government. It's not far away. In front of them is Justin's destination. Inside the back, Tran Hung and Justin are still fighting very hard. He is right now. Has implemented the most powerful Ra Tu of Tai Than Tao to fight the flaming red body. Next door, it's the two generals of the army. Without any hesitation, straight ahead. You see the enemy like that. Use your body again. I want to fight with myself. Then scorn, ridicule, stupid. You put your head in the net. When he finished, he pushed his body up. Open your mouth and bite towards Tran Hung coming. But its giant mouth hasn't been able to bite. He was struck by the fists of the general's feet. Punch for deviation to one side. Chen then jumped on his back. Then take 3 shots of the double-edged blade, a straight line on its dorsal spine. But this trick, it only makes a small scratch on the back of the cold. Still can't penetrate its defenses. Tran Hung looked back in surprise. Up to 3 injectable dichotomies, it can't tear its shell. This dog is hard to eat. The sound of the barbecue echoed once again. I thought I was smart. Next, the body rotated upside down in the air. That's why Tran Hung dropped off on its back. The police are now staring at Tran Hung. Disdain continues to rely on your semi-finished foreman's feet. That want to break the crust. I've been practicing hard for 1,000 years. Why is it a delusional mind? As he finished speaking, the tree in the back came to him. You can't rely on him alone. But I am different, look at it. The scornful sarcasm was even more evident, laughing out loud. I only rely on you for a handful. The tree calmly replied, I am a leaf, not a grass. There are adults who don't understand. Look down on others. You will receive the bitter fruit, and your eyes will grow cold. That's a sharp mouth. If I wanted to die, I would be happy for you. Finished talking, he immediately opened his mouth and bit the people. The tree quickly glanced at Tran Hung. I attacked you and locked him up. Tran Hung nodded without hesitation. Then the tree quickly disappeared in place. Lead the attack. Tran Hung then quickly neutralized the wisest Qigong. Then he called out to the Holy Spirit. Military legs, full body. On the opposite side, the tree was now flying in front of him very clearly. And then he screamed out loud. Follow this sound of it. His body was hit by countless attacks. A cold, angry scream is useless. You are like a martial artist. Use the feet of the general. There are more cuts. They can't break our shells. The tree was also astonished. How is this chimpanzee trained? The whole world is under attack. But you can't find its weakness. This is ridiculous. And suddenly, he's paying attention to the lacerations. Body cold. That's what Ra is. It separated the weaknesses into countless small weaknesses all over the body. Break them up into parts that are evenly distributed. He quickly turned his head to look at Tran Hung. My head helps me stop it. Tran Hung heard that without hesitation. Stop moving the general's feet. The police officer was immediately arrested. Hold it tight to the ground. The head can't move. The tree in front of me is cold. You think there's no specific weakness. I can't handle you. It's naive to see. I found all the weaknesses in you. Once killed for short. When he finished, he developed some magic. Endlessly watching the entire body. Go back to a little earlier time. After handling the body of Bakui, while waiting for him to come back, Tran Hung and the tree man sat there confiding. After listening to the other person for a moment, Tran Hung was a little surprised. I can't believe I said that. Before that, he used to be a martial artist. The tree laughed unexpectedly, right? At that time, we were also famous in the Yellow River. Only regret after we die. A great student body is also transmitted from there by Tran Hung asked curiously. At SAO back 7 transmission, it is hard to find an heir to your school. Or Tran Hung hasn't finished yet. The tree spoke again. It's not hard to find either. It's just that we've spent half our lives running around. Wait until you pay off your debt to the genie. Is about to die. There was no time to find an heir. Tran Hung is even more curious to hear that. How is it? The tree quickly answered. Have you ever heard of the great sword? If you hear it, it's easier to explain. That year, I was practicing this. There was a flood year. The second dragon has just succeeded. So it's impossible to suppress hydroactivity. We are in the moment of impulse, used this great vow method. To slay the evil dragon that's messing with Kier. Then he was debited to the Heavenly Father. You need to spend the rest of your life paying. Tran Hung asked again, have you ever regretted? Stop living that way for a lifetime. The tree calmly replied, saying no regrets is fake. But even if we did, let's go back again. We also do not hesitate to create a great vow. Except for harm to the people. Haha, moving the scene towards the battle. The tree is constantly reciting the decision. The fire was extremely intense on him. Then he opened his mouth. I take this body and I just ask for a sword. Can make all things 7 colors make heaven and earth shake. The cold star is being suppressed by the French army. Hear this word, with authority over the enemy. Then fear comes out. This is a big wish, you're crazy. Just to deal with me. But accept that endless burden of cause and effect. Tran Hung looked at it calmly, replied. It's unfortunate. I and my dog both think. To pay a certain price. In exchange for a chance to kill a villain like you. It's completely acceptable. Even after this, it's going to get us in trouble in the future. Then we have absolutely no regrets. The prisoners would not stop screaming. It's really hateful. Right now, behind the tree, there's a picture of a martial artist drawing a sword. When the sword is drawn, it is also when everything is completed. He quickly looked at Tran Hung and said, go away. Tran Hung, without hesitation, immediately fly away from the cold. Tran Hung just left. It immediately rotates on the spot. Follow his movements. The surrounding scene fell into dismal 7 colors. Very quickly, a giant tornado was created. From the inside, a shout of the pollen-infused eucalyptus. From inside the tornado, countless leaves shot out. Then he shot straight at the body. This time, the leaves were able to quickly pierce through the outer armor. Into the juniper body. After entering, the leaves continue to rotate. Every leaf is a mini tornado. Just like that, endlessly wreaking havoc inside the juniper body. The pain is constantly screaming. There's fresh blood in my mouth that keeps spitting out. Tran Hung looked at the giant in front of him. Writhing pain. The 2 priests also came. Tran Hung turned his head. I saw the enemy's mask. It's the Poppy Sao, then slowly walk back to them. When the king saw Tran Hung coming, he was astonished. Are you? You are not a fighter of the East Sao. What are you doing in Liao City? The dog also quickly asked. It is a disaster that comes with you. Tran Hung nodded. That's right, me and my friends. It was discovered that there was an evil altar in Liao City. In the course of the investigation, I encountered this chimpanzee. When they heard him, they fell into silence. After a while, he asked again. I remember seeing you 2 years ago. At that time, you were only a minor. Such a short time. How can you reach the level? You can fight with the Z-Star. This level of disaster. Tran Hung laughed. You're wrong. You can fight with it.